So, this is my review of a mini PC, the Ace Magic AM08 Pro. Let's dive into it. This is the Ace Magic AM08 Pro, and this is my take on it. And before we start, while this product was shipped to me, my opinions are my own. They will see this video at the same time as you. So without any further ado, let's look at this mini PC and what it has to offer. And let's start with its core. The Ryzen 9 6900HX CPU that comes with 8 cores and 16 threads, an AMD Radeon 680M, and in case of my version 36GB of DDR5 RAM at a speed of 4600. However, this mini PC does support RAM up to 4800 MHz and 64GB, which you can easily upgrade removing the side panel. Talking about upgrade, in terms of memory, my version comes with 512GB of it, and straight away this is where I would say get an upgrade. And again, don't worry, it's easy to upgrade. Remove the side panel and you can easily expand it with a 2.5-inch hard disk. Other things to quickly run over, it supports Wi-Fi 6E and 5.2 Bluetooth. In terms of ports on the back, you have 2 HDMI 2.0 ports, 2 USB 3.2 ports, and your power at the bottom as well. And of course wired internet, which is of course better than Wi-Fi, just like headsets are better wired compared to wireless. Talking about that, let's go to the front and the top of it, where you will find the 3.5mm headphone jack for proper audio. Below it again you will find 2 USB-A 3.2 ports, and of course below that a USB-C port. In terms of measurements, this is 14.96 cm by 7.7 cm by 18.84 cm. So let's start talking about gaming, the thing that this is all about. And there is a trick that allows this to perform much better, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So let's look at the performance of the Ace Magic AM08 Pro. Now of course, like I said, with the Ryzen 9 inside here. And let's start with one of the least optimized games out there, but a popular one nonetheless. But also one that benefits the most from this BIOS change that I spoke about before. Now let's start with it running at this native 1440p resolution of my display, and yes, we are going to show the result of 1080p as well. But first I kinda wanted to push it a bit to the max, starting with it, like I said, with the least optimized game out there, Fortnite. To begin with, in 1440p without the BIOS change and medium resolution, it doesn't perform well. Even in low resolution you see plenty of frame drops, and that makes the game very laggy and pretty much for a game like this, unplayable. But as I said, I tweaked a little bit with the things in the BIOS settings by changing the frame buffer size. This straight away makes a big difference. Fortnite will still not run perfect, with every now and then a little bit of frame drops, but overall really smooth. Frames are at the highest of about 80 frames per second, but also dropping to about 55 in some moments, and you can tell that a little bit, and therefore I would say frame drops are definitely still a thing, but mostly it runs around the 70 frames mark, and therefore I would say the overall gameplay is smooth. But like I stated, this is still at the 1440p resolution. How does it perform when we put the settings to medium and 1080p? Funny enough, it's not a big difference in your normal frames. It still gets about the same, but the difference is there nonetheless. Frames are consistently a little bit higher and the drops are far less. Heck, I would say they're pretty much not there. And if we put even less stress on it by changing the quality to low, the game runs really smooth, as smooth as Fortnite can be, that is. But we can reach frames up to 120 FPS, and I can tell the difference by a bit too. It isn't again by a big margin for my eyes, but it runs smoother and the performance here is amazing. So if you play games like this, it does do well here. But that is Fortnite. Fortnite isn't the graphic intense game, the game that looks amazing. So how does it work with one of the better games released this year? Hogwarts. Yes, I've been playing Hogwarts for a while now, and I will say I love this game itself. It isn't perfect, like I would need a meter where my actions have consequences, and the school selection is pretty poor where you can just change it. Where I think the actions, when you play the intro of the game itself, the story at the beginning, would decide which school you end up in. But that's a different story. Let's focus on the gameplay. Again, starting with 1440p, after the BIOS changes, the game runs decently. We get about 30 frames per second and dropping to about 20 frames per second in some cases. Again though, this is at 1440p. Change it however to 1080p, though sadly this will be windowed because it doesn't allow 1080p for full screen and it will then change back to the native resolution of my display. It does run much better. It runs smoother with around 38 to 45 frames per second. And the game still looks great, and while FPS isn't the biggest factor in a game like this, where with 30 FPS the game still feels kinda fine, you can tell that the game runs smoother and it does feel better, while it didn't sacrifice too much in terms of quality. Now for this PC I really wanted to test different games, and we have two more before we go to the end remarks of this, and we start with Far Cry 6. Without going too deep into it, when you run it at 1440p the game runs decent, again around this 30 frames per second, but for a game like this I would advise putting it at 1080p. The game then runs smoothly above 40 FPS depending on the situation itself, and makes the experience smoother. Again, I don't feel like it is a must to have the best FPS for this kind of game, even though it is a shooting game. It definitely benefits from running at 1080p with medium or lower quality, overall giving a smooth gaming experience for such a small PC. And last but not least, Minecraft. Okay, I might have added this one to showcase what I've been building on Limey's Lounge, like this Hogwarts castle which I'm working on and sticking forever, or because I'm mentally not okay and built the Titanic interior and all. Granted, with the Titanic I had some help, so I'm not the only one who isn't mentally okay, but I had some help with Fenta here to especially help out with the interior. Both their channels, by the way, will be linked below. But when it comes to Minecraft, of course, no surprise it runs smooth here, but honestly, that's not really a surprise for a game like that. Before we end this video, I also wanted to talk about set speeds, and that is internet. At my home, I get 1000 megabytes up and 1000 megabytes down in terms of speed. Now, of course, this isn't always reaching that full 1000, and you get about 900 to 950 most of the time. But how does it do here? Now let's start wired, and to no surprise to anyone, it does well here. However, change it to wireless, so via Wi-Fi, the speed is a lot less. Kinda like audio quality is a lot less when you have Bluetooth compared to a wired via the 3.5mm headphone jack. Even more so, the mic. Anyway, when it comes to the Wi-Fi version, you can definitely tell that the speeds are far less. Either way, let's go to the closing remarks of this mini gaming PC. So, for who is this Ace Magic AM08 Pro? Ha, did it at once. When it comes to this mini gaming PC, I will say that it kind of depends on what you are looking for. If you are looking for the best gaming performance, this isn't it. If you are looking for a mini PC that happens to play games pretty well, then yes, this is something that I can easily recommend. It doesn't take up much space, you have two HDMI ports out as well, so you can easily connect it, for instance, with a TV or a second monitor, depending on what you are doing with it. But if you are playing games that are quite intense in terms of graphics, don't expect it to play at 4K or 1440p with a really smooth experience. It just simply isn't. If you play Fortnite and you want to play it competitively, I think when you put it at low, it will do you perfectly fine. For me, the experience has been solid. But if of course you want to play at a higher resolution with a game like that, yeah, that's not gonna work. But for a mini PC, for the room that it takes in, I think overall performance is fine. It just depends a little bit on what your needs are when it comes to a PC like this. Again, the focus here is gaming, and therefore I showed what the gaming performance is like. And of course the internet speed as well, because that of course also matters with latency. Either way, let me know what you think about this Ace Magic AM08 Pro, and of course what do you think about the video in general, and let me know if you want to see more mini gaming PCs or mini PCs on my channel. Either way, hope you enjoyed this video, and talk to you guys in the next.